Who are you? Not your name, not your job, not your roles. Who are you actually? If I ask you that question, you'd probably tell me a story. I'm someone who struggles with money, or I'm an introvert. I'm not good at relationships. I'm creative, but not a business person. I'm someone who always self sabotages. And you believe that story. You think that's who you are, the truth about you. But it's not. It's just a frequency you've been tuned to for so long that you mistook it for identity. And now we are going to blow that illusion apart. Because who you think you are, that's not who you actually are. Just the track you're on, the identity you're broadcasting. And you can change it completely today. Not through years of therapy, not through force of willpower, through understanding what identity actually is, and then shifting the frequency. Stay with me. This is going to shake your entire reality. For a long time, I was someone who can't finish things. That was my identity, my truth, the story everyone knew about me, including me. I start projects with massive enthusiasm, new business idea, creative projects, fitness plan. Doesn't matter. First week, on fire, obsessed. This is it. This is the thing. Second week, still good, momentum. Third week, interest fading. Week 4, new shining thing appears. All project abandoned. I had 37 unfinished projects at one point. I counted them. Half written books, started businesses with unused domain names. Certifications I paid for and never completed. Apps downloaded and abandoned, gym memberships unused. And every time I started something new, there was this voice. You won't finish this either. You never do. That's just who you are. And I believe it. I'm someone who can't finish things. That wasn't just a belief, that was my identity. Who I was, who I believe I was at the core level. And here is what I didn't understand then. That identity wasn't truth. It wasn't hardwired into my DNA. It wasn't who I actually was. It was a frequency that I was broadcasting, a track I was on, a story I was telling that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Every time I said, I'm someone who can't finish things, I reinforced that frequency. Every time I've abandoned the project, I confirmed the identity. Every time someone said, yeah, you're always starting new things, I anchored deeper into that track. The identity became a prison, not because it was true, because I believed it was true. And belief is frequency. Frequency is broadcast. Broadcast is reality. I was literally creating the experience of being someone who can't finish things by identifying as that person. Until I realized that's not who I am. That's just what I've been practicing being. And I can practice being someone else. Okay, so what is identity actually? Most people think identity is fixed. It's who you are, your personality, your nature, your essence. I'm just an anxious person. I'm not a morning person. I'm bad with money. I'm shy. As if these things are genetic, permanent, unchangeable. But they are not. Identity is just a frequency you've been broadcasting for so long that it feels like truth. Let me break this down. Identity is consistent frequency. Every thought you think repeatedly becomes a belief. Every belief you hold becomes part of your identity. Every identity you claim becomes your broadcast. Every broadcast you send out becomes your reality. So, if you consistently think, I'm not good with money, that becomes a belief. Money and I don't mix. That's just how it is. That becomes an identity. I'm a broke person. That's who I am. That becomes a broadcast, sending out scarcity frequency. That becomes your reality. Always struggling financially, no matter how much you make. The identity isn't causing the reality, the frequency is. And the identity is just a label you put on a pattern of thought. And here's the mind-blowing part. There are infinite versions of you existing right now in the space of all possibilities. There is a version of you who's wildly successful with money. There is a version of you who's confident and charismatic. There is a version of you who finishes everything they start, and there is a version of you who's incredible, healthy in a physical shape. There is a version of you who has easy, healthy relationships. These aren't future versions, these aren't fantasies. These are actually frequencies that exist right now. And the only difference between the you that experienced this reality and the you on the other tracks, the frequency you're broadcasting, the identity you're claiming. The identity you claim is the track you're on. When you say, I am X, you're not describing truth, you're choosing a frequency. I am someone who struggles with anxiety. That is tuning to the anxiety track. I am someone who's always calm and grounded. That's tuning to the peace track. Same consciousness, different frequency, different reality, different identity. Your identity isn't fixed. It's a radio station you're tuned to. And you've been on the same station for so long that you forgot the dial exists. So, how does an identity perpetuate itself? How does it keep you trapped on the same track? Let me show you the loop. This is the identity loop. Step 1, you claim an identity. I am someone who's bad at public speaking. Step 2, that identity filters your perception. You notice every time you stumble. You don't notice when you do well. You interpret neutral responses as negative. Step 3, that filtered perception reinforces the belief. See, I knew I was bad at this. That's just who I am. Step 4, that belief drives your behavior. You avoid speaking opportunities, you don't practice, you stay small. Step 5, that behavior creates results that confirm the identity. When you do speak, you're unprepared and nervous because you haven't practiced. Step 6, those results strengthen the identity. Yup, I'm not good at public speaking. That's just me. And the loop continues forever, getting stronger each cycle. The identity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, not because it's true, because you're broadcasting it and reality is responding. Another example, I'm not a relationship person. You claim this identity because past relationships failed. That identity makes you notice red flags in everyone, makes you interpret connections as threat, makes you pull away when things get good, which obviously creates relationships to fail, which confirms, see, I'm not a relationship person. But it's not that you're not a relationship person. It's that you're broadcasting the frequency of someone who isn't. And that frequency creates experiences that match. And this is the terrifying part. You will always find evidence for whatever identity you claim. If you identify as unlucky, you'll notice each unlucky thing and ignore every lucky thing. If you identify as someone people take advantage of, you'll attract the takers and not notice the givers. If you identify as someone who never succeeds, you'll unconsciously sabotage success to maintain identity coherence. Your brain will literally distort reality to match your identity, not because you're broken, because identity is frequency, and frequency determines which reality you experience. Now, here's the thing most people don't realize. Most of your identity wasn't consciously chosen. It was absorbed, programmed. Let me show you where identity actually comes from. One source is family programming. You absorbed your family's identity templates. If your dad identified as someone who works hard but never gets ahead, guess what frequency you absorbed? If your mom identified as someone who sacrifices everything for others, that becomes a template, not because you choose it, because you were exposed to that frequency for so long. Another source is early experiences. Something happened when you were 7 or before. You tried to think and someone laughed. Your child brain created an identity. I'm not a singer. I'm someone who can perform. And you've been broadcasting that frequency for years, for decades. Over one moment, one experience, one interpretation. Another source is cultural programming, massive collective beliefs about identity. Introverts are like this, extroverts are like that. Creative people aren't good with money. You can't be spiritual and wealthy. Smart people struggle socially. These aren't truths, they are collective frequencies, and you tuned into whichever one matched your programming. Another source is repeated experiences. You failed at something 3 times. Your brain said, "Oh, so this is who we are, someone who fails at this." You succeeded at something twice, and your brain said, "This is our thing, this is our identity." And now, years later, you're living inside an identity that you never consciously chose. You're broadcasting a frequency that was installed by other people, by random experiences, by collective programming, and you think that's who you are. But it's not. It never was. You're not your programming. You're not your history. You're not your family's patterns. You are the consciousness that can choose which frequency to broadcast. And that means you can choose a different identity right now. Okay, so if identity is just frequency, then who are you actually? This is where it gets profound. There's identity, the mask, the broadcast, the track you're on. And there's essence, the consciousness underneath all of that. Your essence is the awareness that's been with you your entire life. The you that was aware at age 5 is the same you that's aware right now. That hasn't changed. Your body changed. Your thoughts changed. Your beliefs changed. Your identity changed. But the awareness, the consciousness, experience it, all of this, that's constant. That's your essence. And your essence has no fixed identity. It's pure potential, pure possibility, pure consciousness. It can broadcast any frequency. It can embody any identity. It can experience any reality. You are not the anxious person. You're the consciousness that's experiencing anxiety on one track. You're not the broke person. You're the consciousness experiencing scarcity on one frequency. You're not the wounded person. You're the consciousness experiencing that wound on this particular timeline. The real you, your essence, it's unlimited. It's not confined to any identity, any track, any frequency. The identities you've been claiming, they're costumes, roles, frequencies you've been practicing, but they are not you. Which means you can take them off now. You can step into different frequencies. You can broadcast different identities, not as pretending, as remembering your actual nature. You're not a fixed being having different experiences. You're infinite consciousness choosing different frequencies. And identity is just the label you put on the frequency you're currently broadcasting. When you truly get this, when you feel it in your bones, everything changes. Because you stop being trapped by identity. You stop thinking, this is just who I am. You start knowing, this is just the frequencies I've been on. And I can change frequencies. Okay, so how do you actually change your identity? How do you shift to a different frequency? Not through affirmations that feel fake, not through pretending, through actual frequency shift. Here are the steps. Step 1. See your current identity as frequency, not truth. Whatever identity you're trapped in, name it clearly. I am someone who, and then add the crucial phrase, on this frequency. So for example, I'm someone who struggles with money on this frequency. I'm someone who's socially awkward on this frequency, and so on. That small addition changes everything. It's no longer truth. It's no longer permanent. It's just the current broadcast. And broadcasts can change. Step 2. Identify the identity you're choosing. Who do you want to be? Not in a fantasy sense, in a frequency sense. What version of you exists on a different track? Someone who has an easy, natural relationship with money. Someone who's confident and magnetic in situations, all of them socially. Someone who finishes what they start. Don't pick an identity that feels impossibly far away. Pick one that feels like a different frequency of you. Not billionaire if you're currently broke, but someone money flows to easily. Not globally famous speaker if you're shy, but someone comfortable being seen. Step 3. Stop reinforcing the old identity. This is crucial. Every time you say, I'm just not good at X, you vote for that identity. Every time you tell the story of who you are based on your past, you anchor into that frequency. Stop telling that story. Stop identifying with your limitations. Stop claiming the frequency you're trying to live, even casually, even as a joke. Your words are broadcasts, and every broadcast reinforces the frequency. Step 4. Practice the new identity in small movements. You don't have to change everything overnight. You just have to make small choices from the new frequency. If you're shifting from someone who's always late to someone who's punctual, don't try to be perfect. Just show up one time. then twice. Then notice, oh, I'm someone who can be on time. And that small shift starts changing the frequency. If you're shifting from someone who's broke to someone who's abundant, this is how it goes. Don't force big financial changes. Just tip generously once. Buy something of good quality instead of cheap. And notice, I can make abundant choices. Small choices from new frequency, repeat it until the new frequency becomes a default. Step 5. Embody the frequency before the evidence arrives. This is where most people mess up. They wait for external proof before claiming the new identity. I'll identify as successful when I make X amount. I'll identify as confident when people start responding to me differently. That's backwards. The frequency comes first, the evidence follows. You have to embody the identity before reality reflects it back. This is the jump, the leap, the moment of faith. You claim the new frequency while still on the old track. And that claiming is what shifts you. I'm someone money flows to easily. Not when you have evidence, now, while you're still broke, because claiming it is the shift. I'm someone who's confident and magnetic. Not when you feel it, now, while you're still nervous, because embodying it creates the feeling. It feels like lying at first, like pretending. But it's not. You're not lying. You're tuning to a frequency where that identity is true. And the more you broadcast it, the more reality rearranges to match. Step 6. Use the activation to reprogram at subconscious level. Understanding this intellectually helps, but the deep shift, the one that rewires your nervous system and changes your default broadcast, that happens subconsciously. That's where the activation is. The activation bypasses the conscious mind and reprograms the frequency at the level where identity actually lives, the subconscious.